Hey guys, I thought I'd review American Gods, the series. I really don't care about it one way or the other. If you like it, yay. If you don't, yay. I have watched the entire first series, and I was like, what is going on? Even though I read the novel, they do tell you they've updated it because it's been almost 20 years since the novel was written. And by updating, they mean they threw in a ton more sex and a ton more violence. There's just gallons of blood everywhere, and there's sex in every episode, and there is full frontal nudity. So they're clearly earned the mature rating. They were like, let's amp it up and do everything we can because this is Stars, baby. So if that scares you already, you don't need to hear the rest of the review. But what amused me is the one guy that was really harsh on it. He was harsh on it because they touched Jesus. He didn't care what they did to the Norse gods or the Egyptian gods or whether or not it was fair of contemporary worship of how they're seen today. He didn't care how they got treated, but they touched his Jesus. And I'm like, I knew this would happen. I knew as soon as Jesus got mentioned, this is going to blow up in their face. Um, I think actually Jesus is treated very fairly. This guy actually hasn't studied his own religion, obviously. In iconography, all across the world, Jesus will be portrayed differently. There are Mexican prayer cards where Jesus looks distinctly Mexican. In the hippie culture, Jesus was often portrayed as a, peace-loving hippie. Um, to white Europeans, he looks shockingly white. Never mind that he was Jewish and would have looked nothing like a white person. Yahweh wasn't white either. Sorry to disappoint you. But the point is, there's like a Jesus for everyone. Jesus comes in black and white and everything. Now, in the series, not the novel, in the series, Wednesday explains that it's all Jesus. It's all Jesus. But there are so many distinct ways of seeing him since there are so many distinct churches that there are these distinct manifestations of Jesus. Just like if you grew up Catholic, you have the child with the Madonna, you have the dying Christ, and everything like that. And, there's a scene at Easter's house where every Easter, and this is not in the book either, you're going to be confused if you read the book, where every Easter, Jesus comes to Easter's house and they celebrate together. And I thought that was kind of sweet. I'm like, oh, a pagan goddess that may or may not exist, depending on who you ask, is having a birthday party, kind of, coming out party, whatever you want to call it, with Jesus, because his actual birthday would have probably been closer to Easter, and death date would have probably been closer to Christmas, but I don't want to argue stuff like that with you. And she says he comes out on his special day, and he comes here, and, Wednesday attacks Jesus, and she is having none of it. Easter stands up for him. I'm like, good for you, Easter. And she is the goddess Astara, which I don't want to debate either. But it surprised me how many people got up in arms, because they do take a lot of liberties. I mean, there's one thing about writing about a battle, and there's another thing about putting it on the screen with buckets of blood. I mean, if the last battle or violence you saw was in a Cecil B. DeMille movie, you may be horrifically scarred for life seeing this. It has enough blood to please any slasher fan. And there is a ton of sex in there. Is there as much sex as a soft porn movie? Kind of. If you cut out everything in between the sex scenes, and for the entire series you took just that, you could probably put a decent, 10-minute porno together or something. I don't know how long it would run. And it's done artistically, if you get what I mean. It's not done... I wouldn't say it's actually erotic. It wasn't erotic to me, but then again, I read Grey from the 40 Shades of Grey series, and I was falling asleep during the sex scenes. That did absolutely nothing for me. So, to each their own. There is a lot of full frontal nudity, which this person had a issue with, and there's obviously a lot of sex. I think they took the lazy way out sometimes in the series. They did. Instead of showing Laura Moon, the unfaithful wife, showing her in some kind of sympathetic light. They tell you in the segment, if you watch it on demand, there's like a little segment after, they tell you that basically they think she's a dick. And they went out of their way to make her look as dickish as possible. I mean, she's a self-entitled brat from the beginning of the first time you see her on screen, that because her life isn't where she wants it to be, she's going to kill herself. And it's like, as somebody who suffers from depression, it's like, that's not quite how it works. And she's self-entitled, and she is a total dick in the series, and anything she wants, she's gonna hurt anybody in her way, and she don't give a shit. She hurts Shadow because she really doesn't love him. She marries him in this TV series because if I'm depressed and suicidal, the best thing I can do is go get married to this guy I had sex with. Yeah. And Shadow is happy because he actually loves her, because he's actually a halfway decent guy, and she's still terminally depressed. And she decides in the series that she will be really happy if they rob the casino where she works, because it sucks to work there. I'm like, damn girl, you're a bitch. And they do the robbery, it goes wrong, he goes to jail, nothing ever happens to her, like nothing ever happened to her in the novel. And she's just royal crown bitch for the entire time you see her on screen, which you will really end up hating this girl. And she has an affair, instead of like, I believe it was like her uncle or grandfather, somebody died in the novel. The damn cat dies this time, and that's why she ends up screwing her best friend's husband. And you had to see the sex thing for that. I'm like, damn it, no. And so there are a lot of problems, or a lot of times they took the easy way out. It's kind of like the writers hit a wall a lot of the time, and they were like, I can't think of anything to write. Which do we want, sex or violence here? And that's kind of what they did. There was so much I would have loved to see from the book in the series that didn't make it. There were actual questionably more spiritual moments in the novel that you just don't get here. Here there's like zero interaction between the gods and their people. There's Anubis can be nice when it suits him. He's like the most sympathetic of the gods in the series. Nanzi is just a pissed off asshole. I'm sorry, but he is. Odin is just a shit that's gonna take advantage of and kill every other god. And, you know, the gods are these shitty, horrible people, basically. Excuse my French. And, yeah, I could see why pagans wouldn't like it, but it's surprising me that so many Christians don't like it. But it'll be a good series if you like series where everybody's a dick and they're out to shaft everybody else. If you love that, you're gonna love this series. If you want to see the gods portrayed respectively, keep on dreaming, honey. It ain't gonna happen in this series. Anubis is the only one that, like, gets, like, a little sliver of respect. It's just, it's kind of like if an atheist told the story of the gods, this is what you would get, because it wants to have it both ways. First, the gods never existed, man made up the gods, and the gods aren't real. But they are real if you believe in them. So they simultaneously both exist and don't exist. They're like a certain cat, we all know. And then, at the last episode, Odin flips everything and says the gods existed first and humans came after. And by then, you can't tell if he just believes that because he was created to believe that, or does he believe that because the gods really did exist and humans are just superficial dicks that think they created everything, including the gods. It's okay as a series. It's really boring in a lot of plots, and it just plots along and plots along. At least in the book, Gaiman wrote decently enough that you would keep going. But if you're watching it for Shadow Moon, you're hardly going to see Shadow Moon. If you're watching it for Wednesday, you're going to hardly see Wednesday. There were like a couple of scenes I liked out of like over 8 hours of the show. So to me, that's like, I don't think I would watch a second series because it takes so damn long for it to get to the point in every episode. It's like these episodes really didn't have to be an hour long. You can see a lot of padding, like the sex and the violence and everything is a lot of padding Not that it didn't take place in the novel, it's just you could tell they were like, damn, we have to make an hour-long show. What are we going to do? Or however long a show it runs. It feels like it runs eternity when you're watching it. Um, I would have liked to see them focus more on Shadow and Wednesday's relationship, which is actually pretty important. But they decided that they didn't need those two in the show, and they went off and they made it with Billiquis, that they decided she needed more screen time. In fact, I think one episode is entirely about her. And then they made Laura, for some reason, they try to make her into this hero character, even though she's slutty and a dick, which is sad. But that's kind of like their idea of the best character. That's the character they liked working with. And I'm like, this story is supposed to be about Shadow and him interacting with the gods and him coming to life spiritually. Now, he has all the personality of Starfoam, because if you've read the book, he hasn't spiritually awakened yet. And so he has all the personality of Starfoam. And a lot of people hated the series for that. They're like, damn, is he boring? And it's like, yeah, he was pretty boring in the book. He just trudged along meeting all these gods, and he was like, I mean, most people, if they met a god in the flesh, if we lived in the world of American gods, and you met Wednesday, and you met Easter, and you met Anansi, who's a lot nicer in the book, by the way, he's not a total dick, you'd like them. You'd like them more, because it's like they kind of picked and chose how they portrayed history and how they portrayed the book, and it's like you get why some characters are so mad and everything, but it's like they're totally taking away from what actually happened in the book. Like, in the book, there is this female slave that comes over, and her story is actually pivotal to the book. It's actually very, you'd do better off learning about slavery through the book if you don't know what slavery is, and learning what her hardship was like and what it was like being a woman and being a slave, than you do having a pissed off Anansi telling them to burn the damn ship. And it's like that totally took away a chance to learn that female character's role, to learn, what it was like to come here and to be forced to have children and to be forced to work as a slave and to try to keep the old religion, try to keep the old gods, and to do this balancing act, and to see her try to hand the gods down. And she's trying to hand the gods down, and instead of wanting to hear about the gods, the young people who didn't go through her journey, they're like, they don't want the gods, they just want the sideshow magic. They couldn't be bothered with the gods. So, yeah, I could see legitimate reasons to be pissed off at this series, but usually most people are picking, like, really superficial stuff. And it's like, if you've read the book, there's a ton of sex in it. If you read the book, there's a ton of violence in it. And I don't care either way. A lot of it's boring. A lot of it, like, I think they missed opportunities. They think they made it better. The series basically has nothing to do with the book. It vaguely takes a few scenes out of the book, and then it just goes off and does its own thing. And they said they were going to do that, and Gaiman can't be bothered to care. He thinks they're brilliant. I think Gaiman does a lot of drugs. And, yeah, and by the way, heads up to concerned parents, they have decided in their infinite wisdom that what we really need is shot glasses and toys for this show, because reasons. And there's nothing like letting a child see a toy for a show that has explicit sex and violence in it. So, think twice if your kids start whining they want an American Gods Funko Pop, or they want a collection of shot glasses or something, because then the next natural thing is to go online and, like, get into stuff you may, as a parent, be concerned of them seeing. There is a huge reason why that mature label is on there. I don't think it's the best use of the novel, but to each their own. I'm sure a lot of people are going to love it because they love the sex and violence, and they're going to be like, there's just something wrong with you. And I'm like, I don't care. I just didn't like it. Instead of getting to know the gods, They're these superficial vehicles, and it really wouldn't have to be gods. It could have been totally ordinary people him meeting. That was my main problem why I didn't like it. It didn't have to be gods at all. He's so wooden in his personality at Starfilm. These could have been totally normal people he was meeting, and it might have actually made for a lot better story. Spoiler alert, the series ends with Easter deciding that the way she's going to get worship is she's going to totally starve out all people, and that's not from our religion. Okay, that's not from our religion. She's supposed to be like the Lady of the Abundance and everything, and hence the bunnies and the eggs and the fertility rites and everything else. And that's not our goddess. But it's not a show you're going to watch for religious reasons. You're going to watch it because you like sex and violence. You're not going to watch it because you give two damns about the gods. So, sorry for the profanity, but it was pretty terrible to actually sit there and watch the entire thing so I could make a fair assessment. It's part of my life I'm never getting back. I totally hated the show. But yeah, if you like what you see, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.